Heads up, you're listening to Fresh Cut, hosted by renowned golf superintendent and sought-after course consultant Tim Barrier. Every week, Tim and his team pull back the curtain with guests to dissect the details and stories of how the PGA and LPGA prepare courses for tournaments. Don't worry, we won't leave you in the rough or sunk in the drink. So tune in, hit that subscribe button, and relax. And now, here's Tim and Matt Palmquist on the tee box with this week's guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Fresh Cut. I am Matt Palmquist, your host. And as always, I've got Tim Barrier, who is, the founder of Fresh Cut. And today we have a very special guest. Tim Morghan is with us. And Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about who you are and why Tim is so excited to have you for the last 2 weeks. All he's been doing is raving about what Tim is bringing to the table.
He's very kind, and thank you for having me on kind of the inaugural Fresh Cut. I look forward to it.
Thanks for coming on, Tim. Appreciate it very much.
And I think we started working closely together when he was at Rancho Santa Fe and having the boys Junior Amateur Championship, I think.
Yeah, Boys Junior Amateur in 2006. That's right.
So that's when I first heard of the club and heard of Tim, and I heard he was a real pain in the butt. But here we are 20 years later, and I think we're dear friends, and we have a lot of connections. So that's how we got to know one another. My background is unique. I've been blessed in this business. I've been in it since I was an infant. My dad was playing a competitive event in Connecticut when my mom went into labor and he had to withdraw. So,
oh wow!
I don't think he was leading, but I know he wasn't happy. Golf course. I grew up on a golf course in northwestern Connecticut, and my dad was a great guy. He got me into the game. My mom was a good player, and I just started shagging balls for my dad after dinner, and then worked as soon as I was old enough. I started caddying and got my driver's license. And I didn't have the golfing genes. I had more of the shoveling genes. So I went to work on the golf course, which was great because I love being outside and doing all that stuff, and kept me in shape for swimming and hockey when I went back to school in the fall. And I went to Niagara University.
Okay.
Came out of Niagara in the 70s, so I'm going to date myself. And went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and started working at Myrtle Beach National Golf Club. From there to Pinehurst in North Carolina, from there to the PGA Tour, was on the staff that built the Players Club, where they had the first PC back in 1982.
Wow.
Built the Las Colinas Sports Club in Dallas, where we hosted the Byron Nelson.
Yes.
A short stint with the American Golf Corporation, 21 years with the USGA in New Jersey, and 14 years now on my own with Aspire Golf.
Wow.
We
In a
met.
nutshell.
We met because when you have a USGA event, a championship event, they send an agronomist out to do a pre-visit of the golf course and just get kind of the lay of the land. And they sent Tim out to see us probably early 2005.
I think it's back in the day. I don't know I've been away for a few years, but back in the day, as soon as the letter of agreement was signed, I'd start working in whatever capacity was needed with all of our 14 national championships, depending on when. So we might have gone a couple of years in advance, and I went on the West Coast back in the 90s for Pebble, and then the whole process with Torrey Pines and initiating that endeavor back in the late 90s.
Let's talk about that right now. I've got that kind of on my notes to chat about because we're 2 weeks away from the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
coming.
San Diego's excited. Everybody is just chomping at the bit to finally get this thing going. And Rich McIntosh, by the way, is going to be coming on the show after the Open. Getting him on here now would be just kind of a pipe dream. He's so busy. He's probably working 15, 16-hour days. But, Tim, you were heavily involved in the 2008 championship at Torrey Pines. But talk a little bit about that time span. How long did it take? And a little bit of the detail about, how that went down.
Well, it started, here's the deal. The USGA being kind of the governing body of the sport, most of the championship is hosted by the United States Golf Association, other than the Pub Links Championship, which is no longer around, which we had at Torrey back in the day. I had a great story. I got a lot of good stories, but that was
I know you do.
But we started having the initiative. We have what's a membership. You could become a USGA member for a small fee or a donation, kind of like the PGA Tour has their members. Long story short, the majority of the USGA memberships play daily fee municipal public golf courses. So that initiated, well, why not have the US Open on a public golf course where anybody, Matt and me, could be just go sit in a parking lot, sign up for a tee time, get it, grab a couple of beers and go hit it where Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer hit the golf ball.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't do that for most of the USGA sites. You can't just walk on Oakmont. You can't walk on Shinnecock. You can pay an exorbitant fee of, to go to Pebble Beach. And I think Torrey's even, their green fee is getting up there, but the private you can't get on.
Yeah.
So that started with Bethpage State Park, the Black Course at Bethpage, where we had the Open in 2002. So then it kind of took off. So let's now bring around the country. We are the United States Golf Association.
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring around the country the United States Open to daily fee facilities. So you saw Bethpage. Well, next on the list was Torrey Pines.
Mm-hmm.
Spot. I mean, you can't. It's a killer spot.
No, yeah, it's gorgeous.
The players. They'll play down the 5 if they're going to for the national championship. They want to go someplace, and they loved it. I mean, they honestly loved Torrey. So that went. Then we had Aaron Hills, and I'm missing somebody in there. Chambers Bay. So now you have 4 corners of the U.S. with public facilities. So you can go to the 18th hole at Bethpage State Park if you're lucky enough to get a tee time.
Right.
And where Tiger Woods hit his 7-iron in 2002 to win the Open. And you can do the same at Torrey, and you can do the same at Aaron Hills and at Chambers Bay. And that's how we got involved. That's a cool thing.
My goal, honestly, Tim, is to break my leg and then play the 18 holes that Tiger did at Torrey that day.
with the broken knee.
With the broken knee. Yeah, when he who was it? Rocco
Mediate.
Yeah.
Rocco Mediate.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about the Open. The level of ability is so good. I don't care if you're the number 1 player in the world or the 156th qualifier, in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible talent level there. Those guys can play. And Rocco he's a tough competitor, and that's what the Open is about. I mean, Jack Fleck and Hogan, we just came off Olympic Club yesterday, 1955. Jack Fleck, really a nondescript, beat Hogan. Palmer loses in the mid 60s to Billy Casper, though Billy was a prominent, one of the big 3.
You bet.
Big 4 players. Lee Jansen taking it away from Payne Stewart, 1998.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff happens, which makes the Open. It's not the men's Open, as a little point of trivia. It's the U.S. Open because anybody of any gender, any identification, any race, you can go try to qualify for that national championship. And that's
interesting.
The ultimate and the coolest.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Tim,
you got my confidence up.
Yeah,
I'm out, guys.
I'm
gonna go.
Go hit it. Go hit it. Get a bucket.
Tim, talk a little bit about what you saw at Torrey Pines in 2008. You knew you had 10 years. I think they were starting to have that conversation. You got 10 years, maybe I'm off a couple of years here, but looking at a public golf course that, receives the kind of play it receives without rainfall, where you go back to Bethpage, they get this stuff that falls out of the sky. It's called rain that we don't get here in Southern California. We might get
it rains hardly here in Southern California.
Well, that makes it really hard to grow grass. And believe it or not, there's some trickery involved to show you all that stuff that you see on TV. And we just had Kevin Keenest on, and being able to do that for TV without rain is difficult to do.
Of course.
So Bethpage then coming out to Torrey Pines. So not only agronomically, but how about design of the golf course? What changes did you insist be enacted before they could have a championship? And I know you work with the other committees and everything else, but as the agronomist, a championship agronomist, what was your first take?
First look at Torrey was a little rough. I mean, it's a municipal Parks and Rec department course in San Diego, but It was the same process we went through with Bethpage, in that the first time I saw it, which will be, oh my God, 4 years ago this month, it was a dump. I mean, it really was just not good. But that's superfluous. You look through all that.
Yes.
And say, you know, I can push all this debris aside and the brush and the maintenance and go, the layout here is really good. And that's Torrey. The layout is really good. You've got the cliffs and you've got, you really can't miss with a site like that. So now what do we do to freshen it up? So, and I can't think of the organization in San Diego. I want to say like
It's a Century Club.
A Century Club?
The Century Club, yeah.
Generating funds. The USJ obviously kicked in a little funds. Again, serving, you know, this is what we do, bring the game back to the daily fee player. Reese Jones was involved, and there was a redesign and upgrade of that property. Couple of things. I mean, agronomically, you know, if the shoe fits, wear it, and with whom you brung. And, you know, hybrid Bermuda grass and creeping bent grass on the coast of California, probably not the best championship playing conditions back at that time.
Right.
So what's your prominent turf species? Kikuyu grass,
Yeah.
or stop signs, and poana, various biotypes, whether annual or perennial. And we allowed the golf course to go that way when Mark Woodward came in. They were fighting, and Reese kind of was, you know, we're kind of tinkering with his design.
Sure.
But that was best for the golf course, best for the maintenance, best for the city and the people that played it. So now you turn it in and off you go.
Now, let me ask you this. So with the U.S. Open, right? And again, I'm like the local hack. So it just kind of, I think my title on the show is local hack, right? But what is the process for, okay, you know, you've got a municipal course that wants to host a U.S. Open, right? Obviously, there's municipal courses all over. What is the process do they apply to say, hey, Tim or USGA, we're in Kansas and we want to host a U.S. Open at our, you know, whatever. How long does that process take for the application to even be considered for a U.S. Open? I mean, y'all got them so far, you know, scheduled.
Yeah.
That how far, like, what is that process like for the average person that may not know? Because I don't know, and I've always been curious.
All right, great question, Matt. Here's what each championship has its own separate committee, and under the committee structure, much like the government or any private country club, a committee chair reports to the board. Every championship had a chair, which then reported to our championship committee, usually chaired by the current vice president, which would be the next president of the USJ. And three times a year, fall, January, and then at Augusta, the committee, all the executive committee and the committees that were involved would meet. And the championship committee would be presented all the applications that the other committees either accepted or kind of quietly reached out. I might reach out to Tim and say, hey, you know, Rancho Santa Fe would make a great mid-amateur site. Would you guys be interested? And then I'd turn it over to Tim, let him take it up with the board, because their board would have to send us a formal letter of invitation. We, the members of Rancho Santa Fe Golf Club, would like the USJ to conduct the U.S. Mid-Amateur in 1998. You know, now we go through all the letters and we start picking where we should go. And being the United States Golf Association, we would try to bring all these championships around the country because they are national championships. And that's how the process got rolling. And you'd have to send us a letter with it at the time. And there may be a subliminal rotation, but at the time, we were going to try to go to the best clubs available to host our national championships.
Yeah, because it always seems
money
like
or layout.
It always seems like
Best
the
opportunities.
It always seems like the same clubs kind of host, like they're in a rotation, like Torrey, which I love. And I actually just got a California license so I can play it at the municipal cost instead of the out of town cost, right? But it just seems like Pebble Beach or, well, not Pebble Beach, but the Torrey or Bethpage or what have you, they always seem to kind of cycle. You know, they're always come back every 3 or 4 years to that same site. Am I wrong, or is that just you know,
Not now. I think
yeah.
the Open has become one of the world's greatest sporting events.
Uh-huh.
You can put it with the Indy 500. You can put it with Wimbledon, the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup. These are major sporting events.
Yeah.
And the Open has become that, and it started to get on to that enormity back in the early 90s at Hazeltine because we had a lot of space and had a lot of space around the golf course.
Is that Jim Nickel?
It was Jim Nickel.
Jim Nickel. Yeah.
There now. And they're going to have a Ryder Cup coming up in another 8-9 years, whatever it is. So
Jim Nickel was the superintendent of Hazeltine. Yeah.
But back in the day, you go back 50 years, you would go to great courses that were big enough to host all the stuff that was involved with the Open. So you see the premier clubs, but you look back over the last 20 years, Matt, Torrey's, this is the second time since 2008. This is only the second time it's had the Open. Wingfoot is a traditional med area golf course, but then the USGA was located in New York City back then.
Yeah.
So then get on a train and go to Wingfoot and host the Open.
Easy enough. Yeah.
And then as you went across the country, the big, great classic clubs in America, Oakmont, Oakland Hills, Oak Hill, Medina, Pebble Beach, Shinnecock, these are congressional, these are big places.
Yeah.
And kind of, that was the mentality at the time. And now you've got a certain tradition. You look at Shinnecock, you had the first one of the second Open in 1896 for crying out loud. So
Right.
it's basically the same golf course, just a little longer.
Yeah.
The
And a little older.
the tradition is there. And that's how you get the rotation. But the RNA has a rotation for not so much for convenience, but there's only so many clubs in Great Britain that can host an event as large as the Open Championship.
Yeah.
Go to Port Rush, and that's going to be interesting. They're trying to get into Northern Ireland and Wales and try to spread it around Great Britain. But what people don't understand is the enormity of the operation. It's
my question was going to be, and I hadn't planned on asking you this, but could you put a number on from start to finish, the first agronomic advance visit, from that first agronomic advance visit to the last putt, going into the hole and the championship trophy? It's a championship, by the way. It's not a tournament. And anybody that works with the USGA will tell you that's don't do that. Make sure you call it a championship. I had my hand slapped a couple of times back in 2006 when we had the junior. So can you, now I know back in 2008 was one thing. I know just to host a junior amateur championship cost the club a substantial amount of money. And there's a lot of fundraising that had to go on to get that to happen. But could you put a number on it today, in today's numbers, what it would cost to put on a US Open?
That's
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I do know the USGA would be happy back in the day if we netted, after everything was done, 14, 15 million after paid for.
And that's with TV revenue?
That was part of it. That was a separate deal. Just all the concessions, the parking, the merchandise, and just all the bills to host.
Yeah.
Ticket sales. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. The 1999 US Open at Pinehurst, first ever time we ever had the Open there, the state income, it generated 400 some odd $million in the state income.
Wow.
For everybody. It's an enormous undertaking. I mean, you can, obviously it's public knowledge, the Fox deal that since NBC bought back out was basically $1 billion TV deal.
Right.
The USGA $100 million a year for 10 years to host however many the US Open championship selected. But you look at the enormity from the TV side of things, the global side of things, you'd have 4,000 volunteers easy on a small Open. And then you got to feed and house and clothe and transport some of those folks. Security, had at Bethpage after 9/11.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we had on site, I think 3,800 undercover officers.
Wow.
Just looking like gallery, but they were loaded.
Very smart.
Now, does the course have to pay the USGA, like in an Open championship? do they have to pay the core? They send in their application, they sent their formal invite to you guys, y'all review it. Is there a fee that says if Tierra Santa Golf Club in Westaco, Texas, which is a municipal course, they want to host a U.S.
Nice plug.
Open? Yeah, I used to work there. Shout out to Tierra Santa. So if they want to host the championship, is there a fee that's associated with that? They just have to go through the process.
We accept your invitation, and then we would handle it from there.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna call
really
them
owe us
today.
nothing.
So
there'd be some negotiating on what the club should pay for.
Of course, yes.
But they're not, because then it would just, then you get into that highest bidder thing, and that's just not being fair and balanced for everybody. That should open for the sake of competition, because there were people back in the day would say to me, well, I don't care if there's no gallery. I don't care if we're not on TV. It's all about winning the national championship.
Exactly. Yeah.
People come to do.
Well,
and now it's just gone in, it's exploded into $1 billion episode. It's like any major sporting event.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those players, I hate to say this, but those players to a certain extent rely on that gallery there.
Oh, yeah.
See, they deflect errant shots. I mean, usually Tim and I go out and play. We hit an errant shot. It might go 50 yards away. That's why Phil signs those gloves.
My errant
somebody
shot
there to stop that shot.
My errant shot goes 25 feet to the right.
Dead right, huh?
Dead right.
Well, if it's left, we call that a dead left shrimp. Well, Tim, you really, I think the cost to put one on is really hard to put a number on.
It is hard to pin down, because just look at, you've got hotels, you've got transportation, you've got security, you've got food and beverage, you've got to acquire land for parking or corporate entities. You may have to pay a rental fee on that land for own 100 acres next to Torrey Pines, and we can negotiate with you for the use of that property for staging or whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of that going back and forth. I couldn't honestly tell what the numbers are now, because I've been so far removed from it from 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Tim, you're, as a championship agronomist for as long as you did it, I think you've done more than 250 of these events.
Wow.
Championship events for the USGA. And so you've seen some amazing golf courses, and you've got a memory. I don't know if it's photographic or if it's an eidetic memory or what you call it. But there's something about your memory that you remember holes, you remember golf clubs, you remember sequences of holes, you remember processes. And I know all the times that I've spent with you in the last 15 years, you were my consultant for all of that time. I just remember marveling at your memory and your ability to bring up that information. So knowing that, and knowing that I just said those things, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had one golf course left to play in your life, you couldn't play any others. This was the one golf course out of the entire world that was left. That was the only thing you could play anymore. I don't know if I said that right.
No, I get where you're going with it.
Like you could not have access
to see what he says.
There's one golf course that you're going to be allowed to play on. What course would that be in the United States? And then if you got one internationally that you can think of, but let's do the United States with your experience.
Well, in this country, I'm partial to Pinehurst #2.
Wow.
I mean, because the challenge of that golf course, the terrain, the design, the type of holes, its location, the shots that are required. I've played that golf course a boatload of times, and it just kicks your butt.
Yeah.
And I love it because it does that. I don't have the game I did 15 years ago. Who does? But I would have to say Pinehurst #2, followed by Riviera.
Oh, Riv's one of my favorites.
I love the Riv. I think it's just LA. It's everything about it.
Hogan's Alley.
It's the Riv. But there's so many good ones, and they're fixing. A lot of these talented architects are fixing the old classics. I'm interested to see Oakland Hills. That's gone.
Oh yeah.
And that's another beast of a golf course. And I get off on the whole history and tradition. I like standing. I was a member at Baltusrol for 20 some odd years, and I'd stand at that plaque.
That's in New Jersey, Matt.
Yeah, I'm enthralled by Tim right now. Like, this is a wealth of knowledge. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. But to stand on that plaque at 231 and look at it. Nicholas just nutted a 1-iron. Now, a 1-iron in those days was about the size of your fork that you're going to eat dinner with tonight.
Yes.
He played with a marshmallow for a golf ball, the old McGregor tourney.
Yeah.
And he nutted it. And I'd sit there with a 3-wood and then later on with a 3-metal. And I can get it up. This is 238 uphill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just freaking impossible.
Yeah.
And you go to Philadelphia Country Club and you stand where Byron Nelson hit a 3-iron into the jar from 217. And I'm going in 1937, no less.
Right.
Yeah.
This gets me off. So from a golf sex perspective.
Yes.
Really cool. And that's what I like about the great old courses. And there's great new courses as well. But if I had to play one every day, if God says, Tim, here's the deal. You can get in, but you name your golf course. Well, I'm probably going to name Pinehurst number 2 in this country. Globally, there ain't nothing like the old course.
Yep.
St. Andrews.
Now,
If that doesn't do
St.
something
Andrews.
for you at St. Andrews. That's where the game began. And you go there, blessed to be able to go into the clubhouse and have warm tea and cold toast in the Queen's room with a picture of the Queen, kiss the captain's balls, all that
And
cool
the toast
stuff.
is only toasted on one side.
And it is, and there's where the game began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the coolest. And I tell you, the first time I ever had a chance to play it, we were doing USGA RNA meetings, and I must have hit. I studied the golf course. I talked to people because I wasn't gonna let this opportunity go by. And I must have hit 1,005 medals because that's what I was gonna do when I started. And they announce your name. You got the gallery. People are just walking down. It's a public park. And I absolutely crushed it. And I had I not I was playing with the director of competitions for the RNA, David Rickman, Gordon Moyer, who's the head of the Links Trust, is basically the superintendent, and one of his staff people who had finished in the semifinals of the British Amateur.
Gordon just retired too, by the way.
We're going toe to toe
Yeah.
until we get to 16, and I blow it out of bounds, make double, and end up shooting, I think 71 or 72.
Wow.
Had I not made double, the old what if, shoulda, woulda, coulda, love, this is what's great about golf, and didn't have a brain fart on 17 and have the courage to hit it over the building, the hotel.
Yeah, the hotel, yeah.
I broke 70, I would never have played the game again. This is it. I'm done. It doesn't get any better. I would have left the clubs on 18 and just gone back and had a
Drop the mic, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, so my wife and I were there 3 years ago, and it was not a golf trip. It was a drive around England and Scotland, and she insisted that I play when we got to St. Andrews. And so I was trying. It was her vacation, and I can always go back with my buddies and stuff. And so I was able to get a hold of the superintendent. I couldn't get on the old course. He says, "Yeah, we'll get you out, but you're going to have to get in line at about 10 o'clock at night. And about 5 in the morning, we're going to walk up to you and we're going to give you some shit news that you're not going to play today because you didn't make the lottery." He says, "Or I can get you out on the new course right now, 7 o'clock in the morning." Now, the new course is built in 1895.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they call it the new course, right? So just quick story. It's just myself at 7 a.m. and a caddy, and he was about my age, just a lot saltier. And for the first 8 holes, I cannot get a grip. I bogeyed the first 8 holes. So that on the 8th tee, I hit 3-wood, and he says, "Now don't hit it right here. You got to be left." What do? I block it right. He says, "I found out what's wrong with your swing." I said, "What?" He says, "There's a piece of shit on the end of your club." So I pick up the tip of my 3-wood and I look at it. He goes, "No, man, on the other end." I completely broke the ice, and I parred my way in. We played in 2.5 hours, and his buddies were on number 1 tee, all carrying bags. And they looked over and looked at their watches and couldn't believe that we had looped around in such a quick amount of time.
Was his name Governor?
Governor. His name was James.
No, it wasn't Governor. Hello, Governor.
No, we're talking Scotland here now. We're talking Scotland. So, Tim,
those would be the two. And there's so many good ones. I mean, I'm down here in Hilton Head, and we got a boatload here that you could just want to dive to play.
Yeah.
Now, there'll be a Congaree this week, which is a new one.
Yes.
Low Country, and that'll be kind of fun to see how the boys do there. But there's just so many good ones. But I'm partial to Pinehurst. I had worked there many years ago. And it meant a lot to bring the Open to Pinehurst because there was a lot of resistance to doing so.
Yeah.
And, you know, Karen and I were kind of friendly with Payne and Tracy Stewart, and that whole Open was really special. You know,
Yeah,
Wow.
of course.
stories there with what
Yeah.
he did, and then 3 months later he's no longer.
Yeah.
So.
Now, Tim's wife, Karen, is also in the marketing business, and she's been
Okay.
around a long time with golf, and maybe even better connected than Tim is in the game of golf. over
I
the
think
years.
she
So
is, and she's much
Yeah.
prettier and far more intelligent.
I would agree, 100%.
Well, I
I'll
can't
tell you
say-
a great story. Here's a great story about Torrey Pines. Karen went to UCSD. She
Right.
graduated sum cum laude from UCSD, and I'm told that just about every night because little old I. But I know we could have kicked their hockey team because they didn't have one. So
yeah.
they were celebrating. She was on the alumni board and doing the work for their 50th anniversary of the university.
Mhm.
I guess they have all these Pulitzer Prize, award-winning Nobel S type alumni.
Sure. Academics.
So Karen says, well, you want to come? I got to do this event. You can come as the spousal element. I said, well, it's great. I need to go see Torrey, and we'll just, hang out there.
Yeah.
What a better place to hang out. So here I am at this cocktail function the night of the celebratory dinner. And I'm sitting at this table, I'm like just minding my own business. I got some
Of course.
cured some bizarre strain of brain cancer. I got another guy that's a corporate
Jeez.
giant over here. I got this woman that's doing some special infant neurosurgery with her eyes one hand tied behind her back. And I'm like, holy crap, what doesn't belong and why? It's
Yeah.
so somebody finally says, did you graduate?
It's you.
I'm just, my wife, Karen, is up there. Karen's great. I said, yeah. She says, what do you do? Now here I've got to tell them what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by genius. I said, nothing compared to you.
Yeah.
I'm in the golf business. And all of a sudden everybody perks up, and this one guy goes, you got anything to do with the tournaments coming to Torrey?
Just so happens.
And I said, well, a little bit. And then holy crap, all of a sudden I'm like the most popular guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this
Golf
is
does
just
that.
a little
Golf does
ball
that.
and a club and some grass.
Yeah.
You guys are saving lives. It was the funniest thing in the world.
Well, yeah, we're not curing cancer, but you're right. It's more important to them. When I tell people, what I do for a living, I'm in the golf industry. Especially now with the game being so popular. You turn into a celebrity instantly because it's a pretty small industry. I mean, I think there's only 25,000 golf course superintendents and gentlemen like consultants like yourself.
Mhm.
There's only so few of us out there, so it's a very unique thing. So when you meet somebody that's in the golf business on that end, it's definitely unique. So
Well, I can't say this enough, Tim. You are a fabulous guest, and we're running out of time, but we
No worries, I
appreciate
get it.
you
Piece of
so
cake,
much
Thank you.
for coming out, lending your time. I hope to have you one day in the studio. So when next time you come out to California, please.
it does come
You're
out.
more than welcome.
I got one last question for him.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate the time.
Yes.
If
What's the
you
question?
could send a text message to every golfer in the United States, every golfer in the world, like you had the ability to text every single golfer, they pick their phone up and see your text. What would that text be to that golfer? Maybe some care of the course or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what would your text be, Tim?
I tell this story often. I had the privilege of getting to know Greg Norman and played a little golf with Greg. Long story short, I thought I was a decent player. I had I think maybe either a scratch or a +1, and I was going to try to qualify for a mid-am. Long story short, we played medalist. I got cranky, got a little uppity, and didn't behave very well. And he came across as we were walking to the next tee. He says, I got a little tip for you, buddy. And I said, what's that? He says, you're not that good to get mad. I guess my advice to all of us is we're not that good, and it's okay to try and get good, but we're really not good. And I think you should enjoy the game for the challenge, the exercise, the camaraderie, and not worry about performance, because you're not playing on Saturday and Sunday for an awful lot of money. So enjoy it, treat your professional staff well, and your buddies well. And if you play with me, you can hit it as often as you want. I
Yeah.
the rules, and I don't keep score anymore. I want to listen to some music and have a cigar and have some fun. So
you're not good enough to get mad.
You're not good enough to get mad.
All right, there's the text.
My running joke since on the show is I've been a scratch golfer since I was in the 7th grade when I first played, because I just scratched the score out. So that's my little joke.
You're my kind of player.
Yeah.
You can come to Low Country anytime you want.
Hey,
we're
gonna get together soon. We'll play around. So thank you
Excellent.
so much.
Well, thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. I appreciate it. God bless you and have a great summer.
Let me know when you're in town. We'll go out to dinner.
Yes, for sure.
You got it.
Thank you,
All
Tim.
right,
No
take
worries.
care.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
we'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Fresh Cut. Tune in next week for another amazing guest. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you're playing the great game of golf today, fill in those divots and stay on the cart paths.